O'Donoghue is okay. It looked like he might have twisted his knee.
A few vivid memories of it anyway. I just remember chasing back James Ryan, and I know Earlsy went in on a poach, and then someone tried to clean him out, but my leg was stuck in the ruck, and then someone just absolutely blasted the ruck, and unfortunately all the weight went through my knee, and next thing it was just agony. I heard the pop of the ligaments, and I just knew straight away then it was pretty bad. I did try to pull it out of the ruck before it initially happened, so I kind of knew it all kind of happened in slow motion, because I knew something bad was going to happen, because I just couldn't get my leg out. So the doc came in with me after, and he looked at it, but kind of when he did the initial test on the pitch, he could, just from the look on his face, I'd tell it was bad. So obviously threw a bit of ice on it, and when the pain kind of went away, he had another look at it, just checked to see if there was nothing broken, but he did kind of give me the heads up that it wasn't looking too good. He could pretty much tell there and then that my MCL had completely gone, because there was no give. And when I was going in for the shower after, just the flopping up my leg underneath me, it was just, I knew pretty much from there that it wasn't going to be good. But when I got the scan, kind of came up MCL, ACL, so pretty shit news to hear. It kind of really hit home then when I got those results, so it was a bit devastating.
Jack injured both the ACL and the MCL ligament. Everyone's aware of the big one, the ACL, so it's one of the major stabilizers of the knee. Your ACL stands for your anterior cruciate ligament. So the main way of recovery is for surgery, okay? So and it's the length of time that someone's out is why we would classify it for such a major injury. Time frames for recovery, typically 9 months, but anywhere between 6 and 12 months.
Just kind of acts as my lateral ligaments to give it more stability, but I can bend my knee. It just restricts my range and stuff, so I can only bend my knee up to 90, where it was handy at the start because I could probably only do about 30-40 degrees bend, so you can kind of see that progressing as you walk. So I'm getting good movement, good range back into my knee, but I can walk around without it. I do a few exercises in the gym without it, but generally walking around and stuff, I need it, because there's a few times where your knee just feels like it could buckle underneath you without it. So I suppose it's more to help the ligaments repair and to strengthen at the same time. You can lock it out at, that you can't bend at all. You can change it to whatever degrees you want for your flexion and stuff like that. It wasn't too bad at the start because I kind of needed it, but sleeping with it on and stuff like that is very annoying. Lying on my back for the last 2 weeks sleeping has been a pain in the hole, to be honest. But especially with the hot weather now, it gets kind of hot and sweaty. So I'm in it for 6 weeks, but I'm getting another op, so then it'll kind of go in. I assume I go back into it for the ACL. I don't really know, but definitely for the MCL, I'm in it for 4 to 6 weeks anyway.
He had his MCL done first, and then there was a 4-week period to allow that to recover, and then he had his ACL done after that. So he was still in a brace for 2 weeks post the start of his ACL, just to continue to allow the MCL to heal. Our main areas to focus on at that point are reduce the swelling from post-op, re-educate gait. So as Jack will tell you, he's nearly having to learn to walk again for those first few days. There's a major aspect of muscle atrophy, so the muscle just really weakens, and so you have to build that up straight away. Get his range of motion back. We'd say that's vital in the first few days of post-surgery, especially his knee extension. From then on, it's really just a matter of just improve the strength and function from then on in.
Do you know what? It's a hard place coming off the back of a major surgical procedure like that. Learning how to walk and learning how to move again, these are things that we have to help the athlete to regain. These are skills that you and I might take for granted, but for someone who's taken an injury like that, it's going to take a lot of time, effort, and mental power in order to actually regain these skills. The return to play could be viewed as a department in itself that combines multiple departments, from performance nutrition in EMA, to our physiotherapy department with Ray McGinley, and then myself from the strength and conditioning department. But we also try and encompass every other department, from rugby to analysis, and then we'd be tagging in to make sure that we get as much information from every aspect of training here, so that we provide Jack with the best possible program we can in order to return to performance. So like it's a combined effort between the multiple departments and making sure that his training program is well-rounded and sound in practice, but also that we're providing him with the support that gets him in a psychologically positive state. Is so important to get these lads just look, okay, there's opportunity rather than negativity of an injury here. And the opportunity is, there are many areas in the professional athlete that you can actually work on. And for such a young pro like Jack, it's an opportunity to make him a better athlete again. Get his upper body strength up, get his upper body lean mass, get that to increase, get his overall fat mass to decrease. And the positives are basically, well, we've an opportunity to make you a better athlete now.
In Jack's case, he was having to deal with surgery, so you have to deal with being ready for surgery. Then the immediate phase after that, so after being under anaesthetic, say your blood pressure is likely dropping, so it's a case of getting the players to be really well hydrated immediately after surgery. Their appetite's going to be suppressed probably, so it's coming up with food ideas that are almost a guaranteed win, so you know they're going to want to eat those kinds of foods. So getting energy back on board as quickly as possible. Again, in Jack's case, he was dealing with a surgery, and then he was dealing with being on crutches as well. So I think people think they're injured, they don't need to eat as much. Actually, the energy expenditure of using crutches means they're eating just as much as they were before. They've also got to make sure that their protein intake is really adequate. In an injury like Jack's, muscle loss is inevitable. You've got periods of restricted movement, off-feet activity completely around, say, your surgery days. You aren't going to be putting any weight through that. That means muscle loss is going to happen. It's a case of he's really got to be on top of monitoring his weight, definitely in that initial phase, because Jack would have a tendency for his weight to drop off easily, especially if he doesn't have the lifting stimulus. Even in periods of time where, before Jack was injured, say during the South Africa trip, and we were limited on the number of sessions we could do, he would have to be very conscious of making sure his overall intake is adequate, so he's not losing mass. So it's really a case of monitoring calories to a certain extent, but I'd be more conscious of an individual watching the amount of protein that they're having to make sure that's enough to support the needs.
I suppose for the MCL was probably the worst, because I'd never gotten surgery before, bar my tonsils, when I was like 4 years of age. So I was pretty nervous about going under anaesthetic, but you know, Ray Moran assured me and stuff that everything was going to be fine, and he's an unbelievable surgeon, and you know, he's the best in the world, and it's what he does. So I had full confidence in him and in his ability. So I wasn't too worried. Waking up after the ACL was pretty horrendous. I just remember waking up in excruciating pain, and that was probably a lot sore than the MCL, definitely comparing the both. But I seemed to be able to get my mobility and stuff back much quicker after the ACL. But definitely, because I got a patella tendon graft, that was a lot sore now. Like lifting my leg and just doing little general exercises was a lot tougher than the MCL. But once I got out of the brace and I got kind of full range flexion and stuff back my knee, I was walking and stuff no problem, and I suppose that was that bit easier coming off the crutches. I was off them after a few days, and so it was probably easier to adapt back to general life after the ACL. At the start it was tough just going upstairs, because my quad strength was so weak, and I physically couldn't power off, so I was kind of going left foot all the way up the stairs. But now, you know, walking upstairs no problem. Just probably the only thing generally in the morning coming downstairs is the tough one on the patella tendon, kind of the pressure going through the front of the knee, and it's just a bit stiff in the morning. But other than that though, functioning stuff, I'm going well, and hopefully, you know, kick on now in the next couple of weeks. I kind of decided that I think it's time to go back and enroll in college. You know, I have time on my hands for the next 6 months plus, so it's something I can try and tick off. I had ambitions to do it, but I suppose when this opportunity arose, you know, it's something, you know, trying to keep yourself busy, because you're in here for, you know, 4 hours of the day, kind of rehab and physio and stuff, but then it's when you go home, then you don't want to just be sitting around. And I suppose I think this is a good opportunity for me to try to get a master's done. So I don't know what the workload's going to be like yet, but I'm pretty excited about going back. It's a challenge, all right, trying to get the head back in the books, but it's something I'm looking forward to. The toughest days are probably at the start when everyone else is out in the pitch and you're probably 1 or 2 of you just in the gym, kind of trying to get through the session and to get through the tough rehab. You know, it's probably a lot of the unseen work, you know, that's the toughest part, probably when you're back out running and stuff, and you know, it's only low level stuff, but it's that bit nicer when there's the team is training alongside you, and you know, you get a bit of encouragement as well off a few lads when they see you back. It's nice.
So for Jack, who's versatility in the back row across a number of positions, he's then got to learn a number of line-outs, a number of different plays from all different roles and all different positions on the pitch. But right throughout since he's been injured, I mean, training sessions, all the game plans and philosophies of what we're doing is weekly and daily uploaded onto Huddle, onto his phone. So I mean, Jack, from a player and his return to play point of view, he's constantly kept informed and updated in how our game is evolving, what we're reviewing and what we're previewing on an opposition. Then he starts coming into the analysis room, and you're probably talking maybe 2-3 hours a day outside of his physical work in the analysis room, just understanding and reviewing plays and seeing what game plans are coming up and what changes to the game we've made. And like I said, with Jack's versatility across the back row, he probably has to cover a bit more than other players.
That's the plan, for boys to seamlessly come back into training. But again, once players get injured, which is a consequence of playing nowadays, I think once they time to reflect and look at their skill set, it's a great opportunity for them to really hone in on certain skills. And Jack has been one of these players who's really taken to trying to improve during this period of feet, you know. So it's fantastic for him to just try and concentrate on something he's maybe doesn't get the opportunity to do earlier in the season or throughout the season. A big thing for Jack was his hand catch. He just saw that as something he really needed to improve on. I think with less time and space, top level rugby, I think it's important to work on the hand catch, and we did a lot of specific drills to try and help him in that facet. You know, if you can quicken your hands and keep your awareness around you with vision, I think that gives the player a bit more confidence to play in the moment and to see more. So it's paramount for today's game.
Yeah, so there's a few aspects we'd test it on. We would test his max strength, which you just referred to, that's an isokinetic dynamometry. And we're very lucky here to have such a close relationship with the guys down in the PES building, DJ Collins in particular. It's very helpful in terms of if we need any testing done, that the boys will always facilitate that. So Jack would have tested his knee extension, which is his quad strength, and then tested his hamstring strength. And we're looking for particular numbers on that in order for us to say that, yeah, we're really happy with where you're at, and now we can move on to the next step. We'd also test power. We do that in the form of jumps. So Jack would typically do a counter movement jump, both double leg and single leg. And again, we're looking for particular figures on those markers, as well as a reactive strength test in the form of a drop jump. Again, we would look for particular figures for us to stand over it and say, you know, rehab, you're there. I think what we would aim to do is return a player back as quickly as possible. But not to the detriment of risking injury. So as I said, an ACL, a typical time frame is a 6 to 12 month injury. So when we give a player a plan for his return to play, we would aim to be as aggressive as possible. So we're looking for closer to around that 6 to 6.5, 7 month mark if we can. And as I said, that's often doesn't happen, and when it doesn't happen, then you have to deal with that disappointment for the player of why it hasn't happened and address that. So Jack has said it's now 8 months, so it's taken a little bit longer in terms of getting certain markers up to what we expect them to be. So there's difficulty within that, and then ultimately at the end stage, it's like, when are you happy to say, you know what, we're really confident here, go for it. So there can be little bits at around that 6-month mark, and as well as towards the end stage, return to play, where it's just you're making those hard calls to say, yeah, we're happy to let you go.
So like every day they come into the building, like, you know yourself, you arrive into work, you're not going to be the same person every day. Some days you might be a little bit down, some days you might be a little bit up. For the injured athlete who's out for a long period of time, a lot of the time they're actually dealing with the down period, and we now have to make sure that we actually pick the athlete up so that when we actually give him a bit of training, he can actually adapt positively from it. So certain things like what you said, like having a bit of crack with him, maybe add in some form of safe game into the return to run, or some form of crack within the gym, as in challenges for amount of reps for an upper body lift, just making sure that the environment is challenging him in a way that just keeps him mentally stimulated and keeps that on the positive side.
Credit to PJ that, you know, him being able to identify, you know, times where you were probably down, or, you know, you kind of hit a stage in your rehab where there might not be, you know, a quick increase, and there's just slow progress, and you're thinking to yourself, like, you know, will I ever get back? And I suppose his ability to be able to, you know, put a fun swing on things, be it through your rehab, your running or something, just changing things up so it just doesn't feel like, you know, the same thing every day in, day out, was massive for me. And I suppose I can't speak for the rest of the lads, but, you know, it does help when you go out on the pitch, and, you know, there might be a soccer ball there or something, and you might just be able to, you know, play a bit of, to take a few penalties after training and stuff, you know, and it's incorporate different warm-ups, and it's just credit to him, and it really makes the rehabilitation that bit easier. And, you know, I suppose looking back, it certainly helped me. My knee, it took a bit longer to get my, let's say, power and my reaction back, and I'm wondering myself, like why are my, like, let's say, jumps not coming to par with my left leg? And you're actually quite frustrated with yourself, because you're doing everything, you know, that the rehab group are telling you to do, and I suppose you probably get a bit narky towards the end of it, because you feel like, I'm good to go, I feel like I'm good to go, but then your jumps and your testing reflects differently, and that was certainly a tough point for me, because you're so close to getting back out in the pitch and getting back amongst the lads, but your body feels right, but your scores say differently. And I suppose we did have heated arguments, you know, amongst the physios and the rehabilitation S&Cs, and look, at the end of the day, it's no, you know, there's no love lost, and it's certainly, for me, I can't thank them enough for everything that they've done for me, and to get me back out on the pitch in the condition that I am. And so it's just kind of a fine line between frustration, you know, not giving up, and knowing that you're eventually going to get back out there.
And on comes Jack O'Donoghue, such a prospect. A lot thought of him in Irish rugby, of course. He's been out injured. Good to see him back.
Absolutely. I think, you know, everyone's glad to see Jack back. Incredible talent, but always puts in big performances.
You're watching the game, and, you know, you see some big collisions, and you do have that bit of doubt, like, am I ready for this? But honestly, once I stepped across the white line, not one of those doubts were in my mind. It was just, you had so much more to focus on than that it didn't even come in. And lucky enough, the first restart, it came straight to me, and, you know, I caught it, and I literally just ran as hard as I could. And after that, I knew I was fine, and I knew I was back to where I was. Mind you, there's probably still a bit of rustiness in me, but it's for confidence, and, you know, feeling like you're good to go. It's 100%. Look, it was extremely tough, you know, it was a long 9 months, but I think the support network I had around me, you know, enabled me to get through it. And I suppose I do have a lot of people to thank, you know, that helped me through the process, be it, you know, my support system at home, my mum, my family, my 2 brothers, my girlfriend Alwyn, you know, being able to in times when you're down and you know you're a bit miserable, you might have, you know, gone to the game, watched lads do really well, and you're in the background watching, and you don't sometimes feel included. You know, going home and them just, you know, keeping it positive and having a positive outlook was massive for me. Looking back, you know, I worked with a lot of people throughout my rehab, you know, and yeah, it's funny how like a group of 20 plus staff come together just to I suppose it feels like just to rehab one person. You know, you look at the likes of the physios, Mark Beggs, Ray, Keith, Damo, you know, throughout from when I got injured. You know, the physios rotated for their holidays. They have to come in when everyone else is off as well, and to start your rehab process. Even worked with Shane in the academy physios. You know, there's so many people. Emma, the nutritionist, the likes of, you know, PJ, Adam, and Aidan and Dennis in the S&C office, having the facilities in the PES building here in the University of Limerick. DJ Collins, from working with Greg, doing statics, starting off with static skills and identifying areas where I can potentially progress my game going forward. The video analysis for, you know, maybe likewise identifying these areas of where you can improve. Also, a big thing that we did was brain training, so looking back on positive clips of you when you're playing rugby, just to help you with that confidence of when you get back in the pitch to know that you can do it. Going from that, then we would have talked with the coaches and sat down with them and I suppose identified areas at which you were strong and areas at which you maybe need improvement, and then going about the process of how to improve them. So between, you know, everyone within the building, I just, you know, say big thanks.